Okay. Well, let's take a look at today's lecture. So again, this week I will, today I'll put up some homework and it will do with dplyr. And so we had a little bit of kind of practice on Wednesday. If you came to a section yesterday, I was there and we did some group by summarize things. And today, now we will talk about working with multiple tables. So, daily symptom monitoring. I got to remind you each time, fill this thing out. Okay. All right, so we've got some two-table verbs, okay? And today we're just going to focus on what's known as the mutating joins. The mutating joins. There's other ones, okay? The filtering joins and the set operations and things like that. And you can read more about all of these things as they're part of dplyr. But this is all about mutating joins. Now, if you've ever used SQL, all of this stuff is going to be very, very familiar to you, okay? But I suspect many of you have never used SQL before. And so when we talk about these dplyr join verbs, hopefully, well, I think it'll be new. Okay. So for these examples, I'm going to just use these very, very, very simple toy tables, okay? I've got one where we've got 4 people. A, B, C, and D. Adam, Betty, Carl, and Doug. And I guess we have which state they're from. California, or CACA, NY, and TX. Okay? So you might have something like this where you've got information about each person, but maybe it's abbreviated, right? So like when we looked at our flights data, yesterday when we looked at our flights data, one of the things was carrier, right? Carrier, and it had some kind of code. And you also had this where we asked, the United Airlines, their carrier code is UA, and American Airlines is AA, and Delta is DL. But then you got all these other things, right? Which you're not quite sure what these codes mean. Okay? And so you might have another table over here that kind of defines what these things are. And it says, oh, the abbreviation for CA is California. The abbreviation for New York, or NY is an abbreviation for New York. WA is an abbreviation for Washington. Now, there's a small problem here, okay? We have what's called a lack of referential integrity, right? Now, it's just a fancy way of saying we got stuff over here that doesn't exist over here, and stuff over here that doesn't exist over here. If something has referential integrity, then every abbreviation that we have listed in state will have an entry in the states table, and every entry in the states table, I guess it depends which direction we're going, but this is a bit of a problem. We've got this abbreviation TX. Now, for those of us who've grown up in the US, we know, okay, that's Texas. But if you're from a different country or something, you might not be familiar, right? And you might not know all of these state abbreviations. And you might need the table to tell you, right? And similarly, we also have over here, we've got Washington, but we don't have a person who came from Washington. So do we need to include this, things like that? Okay. So anyway, this is just kind of like what the tables look like. I have them printed out here, just at the top for your reference. This is not like a command that I've written or anything. I just basically typed out the tables here. Okay? Yeah, we have a question.
So why is Tibble not table?
Why is it called a Tibble and not a table? Yeah, so a Tibble is basically the tidy versus version of a table. technically, in R, the tables are known as data frames, okay? And this is a kind of a, it's the same term we use if you're using Python. You often store your data in data frames and things like that. Now, R has a data frame object, and you will become very familiar with the data frame object in, say, Stats 20 and Stats 102A, okay? But as far as this class goes, we're using basically a kind of a slightly fancier version of the data frame, and it's implemented using the tidyverse package, right? So everything we've done here, like we've got to call library tidyverse, and the library tidyverse adds functions that allow for data analysis in kind of a nice way. And so they've created a modified version of the data frame called the Tibble, right? But basically, we can think of these as tables. They got a few things. For example, when you print out a Tibble, it includes right underneath the names what type of data is being displayed, and it says CHR for character. This is character data, like string types. Okay. The standard data frame doesn't print that information out. Okay. There's a few other nice features about the Tibble. A Tibble is pretty much perfectly compatible with everything that a data frame can do. It's just it has a couple extra nice features, right? It's kind of like I'm trying to think. It's like your deluxe version of something. Okay. Okay, so this is the left join. The left join, and basically the command is right here. We have the people table or the people tibble. We do people. We type it into left join, and we're joining it to the states table. Okay, and how are we joining it? We're saying match this column states with the column abbreviation. And then return all of the columns. Return all of the columns. So we have Adam from state CA. Let's find the corresponding match over here. Okay, CA corresponds to California. So what it returns is Adam, CA, California. Same thing with Betty. Betty is also from CA, so it writes California. Carl is from NY, which corresponds to New York. Doug is from TX. TX does not have an entry here, so it gives us back an NA. Okay? The left join takes all the values of the left table, okay, which is the one in front of the pipe, or the other way we could have written it would have been left join people, comma, states, right? You list the first table and the second table. And so it's going to keep everything in the left table. It's going to keep everything in people. And it will return wherever it can find a match in the right table. And if it doesn't find a match, it returns NA. It says, I couldn't find a match. That's the left join. Yeah, question?
Question, if you create the state table first and then the people table,
Yeah.
you have to twist, just put states percent greater than percent, left join and people, comma, is that
Yeah. So, well, here, we could play around with some of these ideas here, okay? So there's something called the right join, okay? Which allows you to kind of keep everything in the same order, people and then states, but basically it's saying states is the primary one. Keep everything in states and give me back any matches from the other one. And so what do we get? Well, everything that has an entry in states, so we have California, CA, NY, WA, Washington. Okay? And it says for CA, California, I have a match for Adam and Betty. So those both get listed. Okay? Then we have Carl, NY. And then, well, Texas, Doug, nothing there. But we preserve the fact that Washington, WA is there. Okay, let me give you your first view quiz answer. Today's first view quiz answer is the letter B. B as in Betty. Second entry in our table. B. Bears, Bruins. Okay. So that's the left join and the right join. Okay, inner join. Inner join, you can think of this as like an intersection. Intersection. Okay? It's only going to give you a match. It's only going to give you the rows where it finds a match. So, again, we're matching state to abbreviation. Where do we have a match between state and abbreviation? CA and NY matches CA and NY. TX has no match, WA has no match. So we keep Adam, Betty, and Carl, California, New York. Those get matched up. That's the inner join. That's the intersection. What's the what's the other idea, right? So if you think of a Venn diagram, the intersection is the overlap where it's in common to both. And then what's the one where you just want everything? What do you call that? The union, right? If you want the union, that's called the full join. The full join. Full join is going to keep all the rows from both tables. Okay? Might be also called the full outer join for users of SQL. And so, how many entries do we get? We get a total of 5. We get Adam and Betty, Carl and Doug all get kept. California, New York, and Washington all get kept. We get NAs anytime there's no match in one or the other. So Doug, TX, NA, no match over here. WA, Washington, NA over here. Okay, so that's how we join tables. Right. Now, the result of this thing, I pipe people into the full join. The result of this is another table, right? This is a Tibble of 5 by 3. Okay, and so you can actually pipe tables into tibbles and things like that. Okay, so you can take this and join it with another table, right? So if you have another table, you can take this thing and join it with something else, and you can take another table and join it with something else as well, right? So you can keep kind of adding multiple tables. So the way I've written this, when I did the join, I always did by equals, and I wrote the name over here, state equals abbreviation. And notice the format in which I've done this. I wrote by, and then I have, basically, I put inside C a vector, state equals abbreviation. Now, depending on the tables, you could use multiple columns for matching criteria. So, for example, you could say make sure day matches day, month matches month, year matches year, right? And you might have one table of, perhaps flights where you have the day, month, year information. And then maybe you have another table with like holidays from 2013. Or something, right? And it could say January 1, New Year's Day. January, I don't know, 16th or something. I'm making that up, Martin Luther King Day. And then February something, President's Day, right? And you might maybe have a table where it's got the day, month, year. And so how do you match those up? You can match them up. You say day equals day, month equals month, year equals year. You'd have to put it inside the but. You could put multiple of these things together in there, okay? Now, technically, if you don't specify the by, right? If you just leave it at empty, by equals null, or you just don't specify the argument for by, dplyr, the tidyverse function where we're doing the full joins or the inner joins or the outer left joins, whatever, its default settings is going to use all the variables that have the same name in both tables. So if this table has day, month, year, and that table has day, month, year, it's going to use all the columns that have the same names, okay? Which is often what you want, and that's why it's the default behavior, okay? But even though you can leave it blank, you should always specify something, okay? Always specify something. That's kind of my pro tip so that you don't run into problems. Yeah?
So by equals null is the same as an
By equals what?
null is the same as an integer?
No, it's not. It's by equals null, or basically leaving by, is going to just do these, whatever join you specify, left join, right join, inner join, full join, they all of them ask for a by, okay? If you leave by blank, it's going to do the default settings, which is look for any column names over in this table with the column names in this table, and if there's matches, use those to match up, okay? So you could have, you know, maybe one column, maybe you have a first name, last name, and then over here you have, like, maybe we got students and their student IDs, and then we also have, I don't know, another table of students and their, like, I don't know, maybe what classes they're taking, okay? And we could go, or grades or something, right? And we could just match based on first name, last name over here, and first name, last name over here. Now, at this school, I often use first name and last name for a lot of things. Most people just use first name and last name. But to kind of make sure we don't run into problems with duplicates, because there's probably some students with the same first name and the same last name, what's a better way to match students? We'd probably use their student ID, right? And we know every student has a unique ID, right? And so we would probably use their student ID number to perform matches, okay? And so the default is just going to say, oh, here's a value, here's a value, here's a value, and they have, or here's a column name, and it's going to just look for things with the same column names, okay? But you can say, you know what, use the student ID number, okay? And especially, people call the student ID number different things, right? Somebody might call it, oh, what's your UID, university ID? Someone else might say, what's your Bruin ID number, or what's your student ID, right? Or just ID number, right? So there might be just different names for it. And so you have to be aware of your data. Always, that's always the case. You have to be aware of your data. And you would specify something like UID equals student number, or something like that, okay? And then you would match it up that way, right? Otherwise, it's going to just default. First name, last name, last name. Which often works, but sometimes you can do something better, okay? If you do have the situation where you have the same name in both tables, you can just do by equals the name that you want. And that's what you got. And if you have the form where you have matching columns, but they have different names, which is what we have over here, this column is called state, and this column is called abbreviation. Then you use it in the form by equals parentheses, you know, C parentheses, the name X equals the name Y. So here's an example where you might have something where perhaps you have a miskey, okay, a duplicate key. All right. So let's say I've got a table called places, and we've got the abbreviation CA for California, and we have the same abbreviation CA maybe for Canada, okay? So this, you don't want this, okay? This is not a good system, right? We've got, when somebody says we're from CA, what does that mean, right? Write something down. Now there's ambiguity, okay? And we say, okay, well, let's do a join between people and places. This is the same kind of thing, right? We got Adam, Betty, Carl, Doug, and CACANYTX. And the places, we've got a duplicate key here. The abbreviation CA appears twice. Okay? What it's going to do, it's going to create what's called the Cartesian product. All possible combinations here. Okay? So let me just show you what happens. So here I've got this. I'm going to say left join. Left join the people with the places. And so what happens? We have basically every possibility where a match makes sense or a match appears shows up. So we have Adam, CA, California. Adam, CA, Canada. Betty, CA, California. Betty, CA, Canada. Okay. So we get kind of this duplicate effect here. Okay. Carl, NY. Well, there's only one entry for NY, so we're not worried. It just shows up once. Doug, TX. There's no entry to match, so it just shows up with an NA. Okay. Washington, we ignore because we did the left join. Does that kind of make sense what's happening here? Okay, what would happen if I did the same thing except I replaced it with right join? Right join. How many rows would I have? Okay. I'm also going to get 6 rows, okay? And again, we have CA California going with Adam, CA Canada going with Adam, CA California going with Betty, CA California, or Canada going with Betty. You have Carl, New York. Now we have Washington and no match for Doug. Okay. I didn't put in the inner join. The inner join would result in 5 rows. The full join would result in 7, right? The inner join, we'd get rid of this one with the NA. The full join, we'd have both NAs, the Doug TX NA and the NAWA Washington. All right, so these are non-unique matches. Okay. All right. Oh, let me give you your second view quiz answer. Second view quiz answer today is A. A as an apple. A. Yeah, question.
So just to be sure, if I use like left join, like the NA in the right data will just be erased.
What do you mean NA in the right data?
So like it says we'll keep all the data in the left data set. So
Yeah.
if there's NA in the right side, so it will not appear on the table.
Yes, it will not appear. So if there's, like this washing, like for the left join, it keeps everybody, all 4 entries in the left table, and then the Washington just doesn't appear anywhere. There's nowhere for it to go. Normally, okay, if you have referential integrity, well, and not even, if you don't have duplicate keys, when you do a left join, the resulting table should be have the same number of rows as your left table. Okay, so back here, when I did a left join, I had 4 names for people. My resulting table has 4. Okay, if you end up getting more, right? You do a left join, right? Your left table has 4, and you end up with 6. That means you've got something where you've got something duplicated. Is there ever going to be a situation where you do a left join and you end up with fewer rows than your left table? No, that's not going to happen. Okay, if the left join says keep everything, right? If you got 100 rows in your left table, the minimum number you'll get in your results will be 100 rows. It's going to keep every single row in your left table. Okay, the only time where you end up with less is when you do something like an inner join. Okay, and then if you end up getting more when you do a left join, it means you've got like a duplicate key here. Yeah.
The table you create the first always goes to the left. Correct. So you create the people table first, or it goes to the left?
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to, I could do places, left join, people, places left join people, was almost equivalent to doing people right join places, except just the order of the columns would be would be this way here. Let me just show you the difference.
It could be an error message.
It gave you an error message.
If I want to do it opposite.
All right, let's see.
For the people and state.
People. Okay, so let's see. People, states. All right, so here's people, here's states. Okay, so I'm going to do right, so right now I have people, left join, states, okay, and we're going to do by equals, state equals abbreviation. Okay, so that's what we have, right? Now, I could do, what is it called? States will be left join with people, okay? And now I have to switch these. It's going to be abbreviation equals state, okay? And that's what we get, okay? All right, and contrast this, people right join states, okay? So the two things I've got going on here, so I got states left join people, and I got people right join states, okay? And we get the same rows. Adam, Betty, Carl, N.A. Washington. Okay, here I got Adam, Betty, Carl, N.A. Washington, same rows, but the column names go in basically the order that you specified the tables, right? So here, because I have the states table comes first, we put the states columns, abbreviation state name, and then we join it with the column names from the people table. Over here, because I put the people table, we get the people's name, state, and we get the additional column from states. Okay. All right. Yeah. So if you're getting an error, I suspect you didn't correct the way it's joined. Okay. And just so you're familiar with the error message that you get, right? So if I had this written the other way, okay, it's going to tell you join columns must be present in the data. So it's saying you're trying to join the people using the abbreviation column, and it says that column it doesn't exist in the people table. Okay, that's what it's saying. And then it tells you problem with abbreviation. So you know, a lot of times when we get error messages in R, we just throw up our hands like, you know, what happened? But a lot of times there's useful information in the error message. Okay, a lot of times you read that information and you go, oh, this is where the problem lies or something. So okay. Let's take a look at NYC flights, right? So we had, we saw this. We saw this earlier. We got NYC flights, and I want to look at this carrier thing, okay? And inside library NYC flights, there's other tables. So far, we've only been working with the flights tables. That's the biggest one, 336,000 rows. But there's an airlines table. I haven't even heard a bunch of these airlines. I think a lot of these are like bankrupt now. It's like, other than the big carriers, like airlines like come and go, right? Do you remember there's like that one, what was that? That one airline that's like 100 of them, right? Came and go. Wasn't there like one that like offered trips to like Iceland for like $800? And I was like, oh, that looks fun. And then like, I don't know what happened to them. They're gone, right? Okay, well anyway, so we got all these different things, and these are the carrier codes, okay? Like AirTran is gone, right? Is AirTran still around? I think they're gone. Somebody look them up. Okay. All right, and then there's another table, airports. And this is the airport code, right? So we have like LAX, JFK, but then apparently Finger Lakes Regional Airport, OG, 0G7. Okay, but there you go. Yeah.
By the way, to answer your question, they are now gone. They were acquired by Southwest.
AirTran, acquired by Southwest. Okay. Corporate mergers, our favorite thing. Okay. All right, so what do we do? If we wanted to know, like, oh, what is this thing, right? B6, what was that? JetBlue. Oh, okay. EV, what's that? ExpressJet, right? Some of these we could figure out. UA, AA, like, we've heard of those. United, American. So anyway, what's this? This is a left join, right? So again, with the left join, 336,776, I keep the same number of rows, okay? And just to kind of get it to fit, I said, go up to arrival time. Let's take carrier, and then the name comes from the airlines table, right? So again, if we go back, the airlines table has the column carrier and name. There's only 2 columns there, okay? The airport table has got 8 columns, FAA, name, latitude, longitude, altitude. This is time zone. I have no idea what DST is. Daylight savings time. I don't know what this is. Yes or no? I'm not sure I don't know what this means, okay? Oh, TZ and time zone? Okay, well anyway. This is the time zone database. All right, so we have that, okay? And you can do, you can join stuff, you can do all of this summarize stuff, right? So what is this thing doing? Tell me, what am I doing? If you had to title this, give this table a title, what title would you give it?
The flights of per carrier.
Number of flights in 2013 out of New York City or something, right? All we did was we said, hey, make groups by carrier and count. Count how many we have. We have counts is equal to n, right? And we just, all we said was how many things should we get? If I add these up, what number should I get? If I sum this counts column, what would I get?
The total number of
I should get 336,776. I should, I think. I don't know. Okay. And then we've arranged them in descending order. And then after I've done that, okay, so what the result of this, how many rows and columns do we have after the summarize? After the summarize, I have 2 columns, okay? I've got carrier and I have counts. Those are the only 2 columns I have because I defined one new variable in summarize and we grouped by carrier, so we got carrier and counts. And then so we're saying left join by carrier and we get the names, right? So, who flies out of New York a lot? United, JetBlue, ExpressJet, Delta, American, Envoy. Is ExpressJet even around? I don't think they're around anymore. They had 50,000 flights in 2013, but they're gone now. Pretty sure. ExpressJet. Okay. What would happen if I did the left join before the summarize? What would my resulting table look like? So what if I changed the pipeline? I did flights grouped by left join carrier or with airlines, then summarize on the counts, and then arrange in descending order. So I'm just changing the order of the pipeline. Does it matter?
Same.
Will I get the same results?
Yeah.
We don't get the same results. Okay? What happened here? I lost the name. Okay, why did I lose the name? Because what does summarize do?
Oh, only return one number.
It only returns what you use to create the groups, and the variables that you've defined here, right? So I created the groups based on carrier. The result of group with group by and left join would be how many tables how many variables in the original thing? We got 19 variables. So the result would be 336,000 rows, 776 by 20 columns, because it would add that one column from the airlines table. Okay, it would add that one column. But then when I do the summarize, that name drops out. Okay, so it does matter where you do the joins. Okay, because if you want the information in your resulting summary table, do it after the summary. Okay, if you want that name information column, you have to do it after the summarize operation. Okay, I just want to make sure we understand why we're getting this over here, and if I do the same operations but just in a different pipeline order, we're getting something different. Okay, so you might ask, well, why didn't we just have this information? Why didn't we just add this 20th column back in the original flights dataset? What do you think? Why didn't I just add? Why do I have to have carrier code? Why didn't I just add name? Wouldn't that be easier when I'm reading it?
Did the size will be too big?
I mean, my table's big enough as it is. I could add a column, it's not a big deal. What's the issue with having another column there? It's not that it's like too much data, okay? That's rarely the problem. The problem is, how is this data input? How is this data input? I don't know. I don't know how it's input, okay? But you are now opening yourself up for some kind of data entry error, right? Okay, so somebody says UA, United Airlines, okay? Let's say somebody's typing this information in, okay? United Airlines, I gotta type in United Airlines. United Airlines Inc. is how it's written here. Is everybody gonna type it in the exact same way? You would be naive to think so, right? You're gonna have some people leave out the space. Maybe there shouldn't even be a space in here, okay? I don't know. Everyone else spares airlines with one. Delta has a space in there. United has a space in there. What, does airline have a space or not? I don't know, okay? How should it be, right? So if I said write down United Airlines, I don't know how many people would include the space versus not include the space. And anyway, if someone's typing in these things, if you have to type in the full thing, you're gonna end up getting basically different formats for the thing, right? I don't know if anybody has ever gathered data from a Google form, right? You send out a survey, hey, please fill out my Google form, which by the way, you should never do because it's not gonna be a random survey, okay? It's not gonna be a representative, right? It's just gonna be people who are either trolling you or, maybe you got a handful of legitimate responses. But sometimes I see people post on like Facebook or whatever, fill out my survey and it's a Google form, okay? Well, anyway, side branch. If you've ever collected data from a Google thing and you say something like, enter your phone number, how many formats did you get for that phone number, right? Some people just write all 10 digits in a row like a maniac, right? 676775554. You know, what? I can't even read that, right? Some people put periods in between the area code. Some people put dashes. Some people use the parentheses. Some people put spaces, right? You can get all, and that's just a phone number. That's just 10 digits, right? Can you imagine all the different formats you would get? Are they going to capitalize the J and the B every single time? Okay? So anyway, you just say, so it's much easier to use a carrier code. Just say type in carrier codes. These got to just be 2 characters. Type in DL. We will worry about what that corresponds to. Delta Airlines. HA, Hawaiian Airlines, okay? So basically, as far as entering this stuff in, it's much easier to have a little bit of a minimal opportunity for errors there, okay? You want to minimize that. Okay. All right, so anyway, that's the summarized thing. Okay, let's talk about multiple joins, right? So here, we're taking the flights. We're going to join it with the airlines based on the carrier, right? UA, we want to know what airline it is. And then we're going to take the airport code, the destination, IAH, MIA, BQN, ATL, ORD, and we want the name of that thing, right? IAH, George Bush Intercontinental something airport, okay? Miami International, Hartfield, Jackson, Atlanta, Chicago, O'Hare, Fort Lauderdale, Holly something, whatever, okay? Now, what happened here? Why do I get a name.x and a name.y? Okay, let's look, okay? Let's think about this. The carrier table has carrier code and name. The airport table has FAA code and name, okay? So we have columns, that name column appears twice. And so it wants to make sure all the columns have unique names. And so the duplicate, the name appears twice where? At this left join. At this point, there's no duplicate names, right? There's only one name column. After the first left join, the carrier, this is the only name column. But then when I try to join it with the airport's code, there's another name column. So this, the one for carrier will become the first, which it just designates with an X. The second one, it designates with a Y. You can specify, you can say, you know what? Add the suffix. Name, we want to do underscore carrier. Add the suffix underscore destination. And then you also have unique things, okay? The default is it's going to add a .x and a .y when you get duplicate names, okay? But you can specify that. And again, you only have to do it in the join operation that creates a duplicate column, which is the second left join, okay? There's no duplicate names are created during the first left join, only during the second one, okay? And then here, I just selected the columns in order to get it to fit here. I said select from month to departure time, the carrier destination, and any columns that contain the word name or contain the characters NAME. Okay, last view quiz answer for today is the letter C. C as in cat. C as in cat. Okay? All right, you can expect to see your second homework assignment pop up on CCLE today. Make sure you turn in your first one, do your data camp homework, and then I'm going to roll up the data camp homework deadlines a day, okay? But again, the intention, take care of the data camp homework like early, because that will give you exposure to a lot of these dplyr concepts, hopefully making the homework assignment itself easier when you approach it. Okay. Have a good weekend, you guys. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Thank you, Dr. Chen.